I took my first picture in 1968. I borrowed a friend's camera to photograph Jimi Hendrix in concert, and the following morning processed the pictures in his kitchen turned darkroom. When the images came up in the tray, I was hooked. When I began taking pictures, I had the lights right over camera, and it wasn't until I started moving the lights slightly off-center that I began to develop my style, leaving something in the shadows that was not being answered and leaving more to the imagination. I look for very strong highlights and strong, harsh shadows. I like strong, rich, vivid blacks, and that's what denotes a Greg Gorman image. In the old days with traditional darkroom printing, the prints were so important, and today, for me, it's no different. The best thing for me today, printing digitally, is the lack of having to deal with the chemicals and the nonsense and the long hours and cleaning up after the shoots. Being able to go into my digital darkroom and print my pictures effortlessly and see everything that I was doing that I was relying on other people to basically interpret has been great. Black and white photography is so much more precise and much less forgiving. With color photography, there are so many facades that an image can hide behind and layers. But with black and white, it strips everything bare, and it's just either black or it's white. And that's what I really love in my imagery, and that's why I've always stayed with black and white for my own personal work. Although my personal work is basically black and white, my commercial work relies heavily on really good, strong color and color saturation. As I started working with some of the Epson printers, the color was starting to look pretty good. It got better and better and better, but the black and white was pretty much at a standstill. Once the black and white technology came along with the Epson printers, the thing I was really missing was a classic paper. I really needed a paper that could replace the F-surface papers I was printing on. Heavyweight papers that were air-dried that really had that classic silver gelatin look. Finally, with Exhibition Fiber, I found a paper that had the blacks, the dynamic range, the feel, and the look of classic silver gelatin papers, but in fact, it had much better blacks. When I started printing black and white with Exhibition Fiber, I was completely caught up in my images. The blacks were incredible. It wasn't until I actually started printing some of my color images and realized the gamut I was able to achieve with Exhibition Fiber that I was just amazed. Exhibition Fiber works perfectly for color and better for black and white than any other paper I've ever used before. It's my single go-to paper. In printing this exhibition here at the Pacific Design Center, the wildest thing was when I compared my silver gelatin prints to my Exhibition Fiber prints, there was no comparison. The blacks, the DMX that I was getting on the prints that I printed digitally far exceeded those of my best silver gelatin prints. The only frustrating thing in working with Exhibition Fiber paper was that it was only available in cut sheets, but now that it's available in rolls, I can go even larger, and that's how I was able to print this exhibition. The biggest issue I faced when I was making large silver gelatin prints is that they had to be outsourced, meaning that my traditional silver gelatin lab couldn't make the prints. It was very difficult to keep the consistency and continuity between the two labs, between smaller and larger prints. Now with Exhibition Fiber and 44-inch rolls, I'm able to print everything in my digital darkroom and be in total control of my images, both on small prints and big prints. The best thing for me about printing on Exhibition Fiber is the fact that when I share it with friends of mine, they have no idea what it's printed on. All they know is that it's a photograph, and it's the photograph at the end of the day that makes all the difference. One of the things that Exhibition Fiber brings to my photograph of Iman is a great dynamic range in terms of highlights to shadows with actually great midtones and the subtle nuances of the continuous tones between each of the layers of gray. My color image of Grace Jones really looks great on Exhibition Fiber. The color gamut is just extraordinary. The range of colors you see in that image, I've never been able to reproduce on any traditional paper. Of all the prints I've made of Andy Warhol, one of my most iconic images, it's never looked better than it does on Exhibition Fiber, and the ability to be able to go so large is incredible. In this exhibition, the portrait of the Atherton twins is one of the first new digital images I printed. And it looks great. There's so much black in that image, and it's so rich. And yet the tonality and the subtle range in their skin tones is fantastic. One of the great things is seeing how scanned images look printed today on Exhibition Fiber paper. The shot of Al Pacino just really came alive when I made that print. It never looked that good on a traditional silver paper. David Fay brought up an interesting idea, and that was making large contact sheets. So I scanned some of my original negatives on the Epson 750, and they really look sensational. Some of the contact sheets that I did were of David Hockney, Philip Johnson. We did some great ones, Leonardo DiCaprio at a very young age, and when you see them blown up big, it's kind of great in context of looking at the single individual images on each sheet. The show here at the Pacific Design Center is so large it's basically split up between two rooms and focuses here on my images from my latest book, In Their Youth, and in the other space focuses on very large prints from my earlier work that basically encompasses 40 years of my imagery. When I put my signature on a print, it represents the best that I'm capable of doing and is representative of my work in my lifetime. What's amazing to me today is walking through this exhibition and seeing my pictures hung on the wall that I printed on a 9900 utilizing exhibition fiber paper, and realizing that all that technology is invisible and is affording me the opportunity, basically, of creating my distinct vision.
To learn more, contact LexJet, your Epson photo paper specialist, at 800-453-9538.